Welcome back, fellow readers. This is Suave, and today we're going to be continuing our journey with Eden's Zero Volume 2. Now, just a reminder, in this channel we are going to be talking about spoilers. We're going to talk about everything that happens in this volume, my favorite moments, and we're just going to have a whole lot of fun. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so right off the bat in our intro page, we see this young looking girl named Xiao Mei, and she claims to be the narrator of this story. So we'll just roll with it for now. We don't know a whole lot about her. Maybe we'll learn more about it later in the future. But we just know that she tells us time holds no meaning in this story. It works differently, and not to worry about that whole scene we saw in the last volume about skipping 20,000 years in the future. So immediately after that, we see our cover page for chapter 5, A Man Named Weiss. And I love this cover page. We get to see the gang hanging out on the beach or along the poolside. It's what it looks like, a bunch of palm trees in the back. They're loving their drinks, they're loving their food. And I love this little Rave Master reference that we get with Ruby, or it looks like someone who looks like Ruby. It's these little penguins here in the pool. So I remember Ruby all the way from Rave Master. He was a fun little side character, so it's just fun to see Mashima bring back either Ruby or just Ruby's species as a whole into this cover page. So when we last saw the gang, Rebecca was looking for Professor Weiss, and they're in his laboratory, and they were in a standoff with this young looking dude holding a gun to them. And Shiki's wearing these x-ray goggles. He's looking up in the ceiling. He sees a shadowy figure, possibly with a gun, and he immediately jumps up there and goes ham on this dude with that gravity fist. I love the way this gravity fist looks. We see all the lines, the sound effects, the hole in the ceiling that he makes. It's just awesome to look at. And then so the professor makes his getaway with the motorcycle. He's grabbing a hold of this henchman, and the henchman makes this reference to a guy named Sibir, who we're going to learn about later on. So fast forward a little bit, the gang goes to a restaurant. They're having a good time. They're trying to figure out everything that just happened. And I love this little scene with Rebecca eating this food. She just has this cute little face going on. She is chowing down on this food. She loves everything about it. And there's this little pattern that's going on. They see this reference to the Adventurers Guild on the TV. They're seeing these old cars. Their internet's not working. And so we get this nice full page spread of the realization that they are not where they're supposed to be. For some reason, they are 50 years in the past. And you get this utter sense of dread. Happy's confused in the background. Shiki still has food in his mouth. This is where something's just not right. There's a sense of panic, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And we get to see this huge double page of this huge ass mech coming down, hovering above them. There's these other little hovercrafts with turrets and guns coming to his side, and we learn that this is Sibir. Now, when I first saw this design, immediately something triggered in my head. I'm like, I've seen something like this before. So I had to do some digging, and I went back to Rave Master a little bit, and I found this guy named Litiango. He's one of the palace guards from a specific arc in Rave Master. And maybe it's not a reference, maybe I'm just looking too much into it, but he was what came into mind when I saw this mech. And so they have the pointed hat, the gauntlets, the little robes, and the shoulder pads, everything. So they kind of look similar to me. They're not one for one, but if it is a reference, cool. If it's not, maybe that's just a little fanatic in me that's talking. So now we get into chapter 6, Thief, and I love this little cover page. It's probably a few hours before all this happened, where they're above ground on Norma, and Rebecca's taking a selfie. Shiki and Happy are in the background with their exaggerated smiles. It's a cute little photo. I love it. So we find out that Sibir is here. He's looking for Weiss, and they're in a confrontation with Shiki and Rebecca. And I really love this page in particular, where Shiki is trying to run away with Rebecca to get them to safety. And we get this panel by panel perspective showing us what Shiki's powers kind of look like, where he's sort of, I guess you can say he's changing the gravitational pull around him to make it feel like they're actually falling down and letting gravity handle the rest when they're actually flying sideways. So I thought that was a really cool perspective to see. And so of course we get all these missiles, all these bullets being fired at the gang while they're trying to make their escape, and Rebecca and Happy are really scared at this point. And Shiki is not someone who wants to back down. He's gonna confront these people because you know the Seabeer and his mech, they're catching up, and so he is gonna punch back, and it actually turns out that he's making a crack on this mech, and he pretty much makes the whole hand explode and makes the mech kind of decommission a little bit, so they were able to get away safely. So once again, the gang is regrouping, and they're already in another bar restaurant type of place, and they're ordering some food, and lo and behold, they bump into this young dude who looks like Weiss, and they're both kind of struck a little bit. And you know, we find that, you know, they start putting the pieces together. We're 50 years in the past. You're probably the Weiss that we know, but you don't know us because we're from 50 years in the future. And so here we get Shiki. He wants to try to be a thief, as the chapter says. So he changes his class to thief, and you know, he starts making this huge grin. He's looking for this box that Professor Weiss was holding onto. He starts stealing it. And you know, he eventually falls a little bit, and we see what's in this box, and it's this little tiny robot with these little cute little ears. She has these little feet, and I think she has like a screw for one of her legs. We'll figure out what that is later on. But I'm gonna admit something right here. So I actually read the Heroes manga, Mashima's Heroes, a while ago, back when it was first coming out digitally. I bought them chapter by chapter. And you know, I didn't understand who these Eden's people were because I didn't start it at the time, but I do remember this little robot. I don't remember her name at the time, but you know, she was just I was just cracking up whenever I saw her because she made these little jokes, and you know, she's just one of the mascots, so I figure she's probably the new unique mascot here in Eden Zero. But you know, for some reason, when these mascots say stupid things and they have a straight face, I just can't help but crack up. And you know, there was this one thing where she was pretending to be a bunny and she was literally saying hop hop. I have to look up that page. If I can find it, I'll put it up here for you guys. But literally, it was just that one scene that made me remember about this little robot, and so that kind of stuck to my mind. So here we are seeing her for the first time in this story in Eden Zero. So now we get into chapter 7, Iron Tears, and I love this cover page because we got my girl Abilia, and she's looking fine as always. So immediately the gang gets introduced to this little robot named EM Pino, and we know that her name is EM Pino, or Pino for short, because she lets off an EMP. That's like her little ability that she has. And you know, all the gadgets, everything turns off. And even Happy turns off because, you know, he's a cyborg now, or maybe a full machine. And so, you know, he's there with his happy little face, but his eyes are all gone because he's offline. And then he comes back online. He's like, whoa, what the heck just happened to me? So we know that Pino is connected to Seabeer because Seabeer is looking for Weiss, and Weiss had this container, and this container had Pino. And so when they mention Seabeer, Pino kind of goes a little haywire. She recognizes that Seabeer is like her master. And you know, she starts running away trying to catch up to Seabeer because she doesn't want to be punished. And so we get this little B cube, and what we learn is that, you know, Seabeer probably captured Pino at some point, and they kind of just tortured the poor little robot for whatever reason, because they know that they can utilize her EMP powers to make money. They can make weapons disable, they can start robbing places. And you know, you get this little scene here with Pino. She's crying. Happy's crying because he's seeing the little recording from the B cube, and it's just a really emotional scene that you get that you don't normally get maybe with robots in general. And I love this next scene here that we get with Shiki because, you know, he sees this recording, and you know, he already became friends with Pino. He was like, hey, can we be friends? And she's like, yeah, sure. And so, you know, he makes friends pretty quickly, so he's already emotionally attached to this little girl robot. And so the moment he sees these tears, he's already up in arms, ready to fight for her. Now we get to chapter 8, Clash, the Seabeer family. And this cover page is featuring the receptionist that we got from the Adventurers Guild in the last volume. And she is having way too much work to deal with. They are not paying her enough to deal with all this input. So now everyone's trying to get to Pino for their own reasons. You know, we have Shiki, Rebecca, Happy. They want to just help out Pino. Well, Weiss is off on his own. He gets the Pino first. He wants Pino for his own reasons because he's a good guy. He cares about her, but he's also a scumbag because he wants to use her for money as well. But while this is going on, immediately we get Shiki, Rebecca, Happy. They come crashing in with a motorcycle, and I love this double spread that we get here where Shiki is sort of pulling all these henchmen in with these gravity powers, and he does this crazy gravity fist frenzy. And this is gonna look so badass in the anime. I can't wait to see how they pull it off with all these fluid motions of everyone just floating in the air. And he pulls them in closer and just starts beating the crap out of them one by one. So at some point during the scramble, Weiss grabs Pino and he makes a run for it with the motorcycle. But he's also sitting on Happy, so he takes both the mascots with him. And Shiki and Rebecca get separated at some point, and Shiki gets crashed down into a basement, and Rebecca is by herself, and Happy's not there, so she's defenseless. She doesn't have a weapon, and she doesn't have Shiki to protect her, and she is in this sudden realization of dread because there's these two foot brothers here who are ready to throw down with her, and she doesn't know what she's gonna do. And so we cut off to Shiki. He's in this little basement. He gets crashed down. And we see this robot that looks an awful lot like Michael, the robot that Shiki grew up with all the way back in the kingdom that he grew up in. And so it's interesting to see that this little robot's here, whether or not it's actually Michael or not, because this is 50 years in the past. We'll find out about that really soon. So now we jump to chapter 9, versus the Foot Brothers, and we get this cover page of young Shiki. He's there fishing with what we believe is Michael back in when he was a little kid. And they're fishing probably back in the kingdom, and it's a cute little cover page. I like it. So we immediately find out that this is not the Michael that Shiki knows. This is just another mass-produced robot of the same model. And Shiki kind of has a little moment here because back in the kingdom he thought that he knew how to fix robots, but we find out later on in volume 1 that the robots had an auto repair system. They just wanted to make it look like Shiki knew what he was doing. And so he has this moment with this robot, and he's trying to fix it, and he realizes that he just can't fix it. And it's a little bit sad. So I love this one little scene in particular. Rebecca's finding the Foot Brothers. She's trying to find something. She finds a gun, I think, and the Foot Brothers are trying to go after her, but then they realize something about Rebecca. They realize that she has fine looking legs, and I told you all in volume 1, I zoomed in on those legs. I told you she has really nice legs. She's meant to jump around in combat. These guys are really admiring the tone that she has on those legs, and they want to get a piece of those legs at all costs. And of course Shiki comes crashing in to save the day, and he has another double spread where he shows off a new gravity move called the Gravity Windmill Kick. Now I love this. It reminds me of Street Fighter with the little windmill kicks from Ryu and Ken. So I'm really curious to see what this is going to look like in the anime. Is it going to be like, just like a one sweep, or is he going to do like a whole 180 and do multiple hits with his legs like in Street Fighter? It's going to be pretty fun to see what they do with that. So they took care of that. Seabear has caught up to Weiss in his mech. And we get this another amazing scene with Shiki where he is going full force gravity, and he just punches a hole right through that mech that Seabear is inside of. And this poor mech is really just all for show at this point because there is a huge hole in that mech right now, and Shiki just punched the crap out of Seabear in the back. And things are about to go down right now. So now we get into chapter 10, We're Friends, Aren't We? And we get this cover page with Pino and Happy. I love the little mascots because Pino's there with the serious face, Happy is there with his goofy happy face as always. And we get right into the action, and Shiki lets off this gravity cannon on Seabear. He makes do of this guy very quickly, and he's about to finish him off. And we find out that the little bird that was with Seabear actually is able to control the mech itself. So the mech is able to grab Shiki, but then Pino comes in and saves the day with her EMP, making the mech useless, and then Shiki is able to get free. We see Weiss, he's about to shoot Seabear and just finish him off. And he does the click and everything, but because the EMP went out, the gun is kind of useless, so he just does the click for show. So the baddies have been defeated. We saved Pino, and we get this touching little moment with Shiki and Pino where Shiki's like, we do this because we're friends, aren't we? And Pino has this little cry in her face, and she says, yes, we are. And so they're trying to get together. Pino is now part of the gang. They're trying to get out of here because the police are now after them because they caused all this ruckus and all this chaos around the city. And so they're on their ship. They're trying to get out. And for some reason, this ship gets stuck in the clouds. The clouds are just thick as heck for some reason. And they're in this state of panic because the police are about to catch up to them. And Weiss is like, hey, let me take control of the ship, I'll get us out of here. And this is where things get really interesting. Okay, so now we're in chapter 11, Machina Maker, and I'm going to spend some time a little bit on this cover art because now I get to geek out a little bit because I know a lot about what's going on and what's being referenced in this cover art. Okay, so we got the gang all here, there's this giant mech in the middle, we have Rebecca sitting on the mech's shoulder, she has this sexy space outfit going on, Happy's there being a little mechanic with his spacesuit, Pino's there with a little smile on her face, Shiki, Weiss, and even the bar girl from the restaurant. We'll talk about her later on in this chapter. And so we got this giant mech in the middle, and it has the word Griffin. Now, Griffin is this blue mascot that we got in Rave Master, and you know, the head looks just like him. It's no doubt that this is a reference for Rave Master. And we also get this heart crook symbol that Ellie wears because it's always on her shirt, that white shirt that she wears. And on that shoulder, the left shoulder that the robot has, I believe in Rave Master we always had this like little theme going on where the word rave was always on something, like whether it was on a sticker or on a background or, you know, on a sign. It was always somewhere on one of these cover pages. And so here I think Mashima snuck in the word rave because you see R and what looks to be the letter A, and then you don't see the rest, but it's like a little sticker that's on that shoulder pad. So I thought that was a really cool reference that we get to Rave Master inside this futuristic Eden Zero cover art. Okay, so back to the story. So Weiss is now taking control of this ship, and as soon as he gets control of the ship, we see these lines going on his hand, and we know what this is. This is ether gear. This is a hype moment right here. So Weiss is showing off his ether gear powers. Everybody's freaking out because he's saying all these weird computer mechanized engineer things going on, and this ship just starts to immediately deconstruct and reconstruct itself into a whole different form. And then we find out that he is rebuilding the ship instantaneously. And so he has this ether gear that he names Machina Maker. And while doing this, he also actually repairs Pino's leg. So as soon as we leave the planet Norma, we see that we are back in the future, or back in present day I should say, because Rebecca's phone is now connected back to the internet, and she's getting all these messages from Professor Weiss, the one that they know, the one that's older. So the way that Mashima explains it is that the time within that planet Norma was consumed by this monster named Chronophage. So when Chronophage consumes time, you know, he kind of travels world by world, he consumes time, and only that pocket of the world gets its time rewound whenever time is devoured. And so now Professor Weiss is trying to explain to us that there is no time paradox to worry about, because when Chronophage does this, it just becomes sort of its own unique reality in this universe. And so if something were to happen to the young version of Professor Weiss, it would have no impact on the old Professor Weiss. And so he has nothing to worry about, but you know, he's trying to tell them, you know, he shouldn't be here, but you know, since he's here with you guys, nothing's bad gonna happen to me. So, you know, just do what you want. And you know, you younger me, just make sure that you do whatever you can to survive, because you are not me anymore. You are in your own life timeline that does not follow me anymore, if that makes sense. So they're talking to the professor, and their communication gets jammed because now we see this giant double spread of this huge spaceship coming in, and it's none other than Elsie Crimson, the space pirate that we saw in Volume 1, who has now tracked down the ship, and they are here to capture Shiki. So now we get into chapter 12, Skull Fairy, and we get this little cover art with young looking Weiss. He looks like he's trying to smooth talk his way with what looks to be his future wife, the restaurant bar girl, and she's just not having it. She doesn't care what he's trying to say right now. So Shiki and Rebecca are trying to figure out why this space pirate is after them, and you know, Elsie just tells them, well, we're pirates. We like to plunder, and you belong to us now, and your ship belongs to us. And you get this page where Rebecca's really freaking out, and she starts imagining what's gonna happen to her now. Is she gonna be like this slave for these old men who just want to have their way with her and make her dress up in a certain way? It's just funny to see her thoughts, and she's picturing it very specifically for some reason. So now they're in this predicament, and Shiki is like, well, if you guys are space pirates and you're trying to plunder us, then the only thing I'm gonna do now is beat the crap out of you and plunder your ship. So she's like, all right, deal, come on guy, let's do this. And so he runs into the ship. We see this biomass that has sort of attached itself to the ship that Elsie's on, and Shiki's kind of creeped out by this, and he sees these pirates coming after him and he's ready to throw down. But these pirates are not ordinary people. They have these weird tentacles going on, and Shiki's trying to fight them off. And we get this lovely scene with Rebecca and Happy where the tentacles have them all wrapped up. You get a lot of details there with the tentacles there, and the tentacles have Pino. Weiss doesn't know what the heck to do either, and so they are trying to just get out of this, and they're trying to take these tentacles out so that they can get some breathing room. And Rebecca finally does get free, and she just starts shooting everything that she can because she is just pissed off at the way these tentacles were touching her. Now here's the really cool and creepy part, because Shiki is able to find where Elsie is, and we see Elsie, and here we get this page where her face is just not there. There's just something creepy about it. I don't know if it's like this zombie or this other life form. Something is there instead of Elsie, or maybe that was her real face to begin with. We don't know yet. And so Shiki's kind of freaked out that now he has to face this thing, or whatever this thing is that's calling itself Elsie Crimson. Alright, so we're starting to wrap up the volume now, and we're on chapter 13, Shiki versus Elsie, and we get this cover page of Elsie Crimson with her space outfit, her sword. She just looks really badass here. So here's the big fight we've been waiting for. Shiki is here throwing down with this creature who is supposed to be Elsie Crimson, and we see that this creature has the same alien tentacles that the other pirates had. And so Shiki is here trying to do all his gravity powers, going all out on this creature. So while all this is going on, we get introduced to 3 new named characters, and these characters are in the sidelines. They're like in the far distance in their ships. They're actually trying to locate Elsie. They are part of the cosmic government. So we get to meet Justice, Victory, and Creed. And so they're trying to locate Elsie. They figure she stopped somewhere, and they're trying to close in on her. And so while this is going on, they notice that there's some sort of abnormal ether energy coming from the same direction where Elsie is. And so they're trying to make sense of this. Shiki is still going all out on this creature, and when Shiki starts powering up, you see this awesome shot of Shiki going in, and these people notice that Shiki has the power of the Demon King, or they say that this is the Demon King's ether energy that we're reading. And so you get this awesome double spread of Shiki just going ham. He's thinking about his grandpa and making his dream come true, and you just see this awesome demonic smile on him. I don't know if this is like a power up or something, or maybe he's gonna turn into a different color in the anime. I don't know what this is gonna look like, but this scene alone is just pretty badass, so I just can't wait to see when this happens in the anime. So once he defeats the creature, we find out that it's actually a little parasite that mimics human beings. And so Elsie was watching this whole time safe from her spaceship, and they see this fight going down, and they start talking to Shiki, and she's been telling him that we've actually been paying close attention to you this whole time because we know your grandpa, the Demon King, and I owe a great debt to him, and one of his last messages to me was to give you this ship, the ship that you're in, and so I'm just gonna give you that ship. You wanted to plunder it, it's all yours now. And Shiki has a little maybe vendetta. He doesn't want to grab it this easily, but they're in a predicament because the cosmic government is closing in. They are going to want to capture Elsie. They're also going to want to capture whatever this gravity ether that they're reading off the Demon King energy. So obviously they're going to hone in on Shiki, and they're going to want to capture him. And so you see this awesome double spread of Elsie with her grand fleet, and they are ready to defend and hold the line to make sure Shiki gets away safely. And so you see this awesome grand fleet. The cosmic government is coming in, and they are just shooting lasers at each other. And this, we get to see this in the manga. It looks awesome, but I actually can't wait to see what it's going to look like in the anime. What a Mashima sci-fi space battle is going to look like in the anime. It's going to be pretty glorious. I feel like it's going to be awesome. So we get this awesome last scene with Elsie and Shiki, because Elsie is telling Shiki about Ziggy, his grandpa, and how he was not able to make it to Mother. And so Shiki is now motivated because he wants to make this accomplishment, something that his own grandfather, the grand person that he wasn't even able to accomplish. And the last message that she gives him is something that Ziggy told her, was that whoever makes it to Mother will be reborn. Now we don't know what that means. We just have this artwork here that kind of tells us that, you know, there's like a little fetus going on. There's all these cords. I don't know what's going on, but you know, there's this great mystery that we learn here in this page. And here's where we get to the really cool part, because I didn't think we would get this right away in volume 2. I thought we would get this later on, but it's here, it's happening. So Shiki, Rebecca, Weiss, the gang, everybody, they make it out safely. They go into hyperspace or whatever they call it here, and you know, we get this scene with Justice. So Justice is part of the Cosmic Police, and he is having this conversation with Elsie because he wants to capture Elsie at all costs. And so we get to see that he has ether gear, and he, you know, we get these lines and these runes on his body, and it comes all the way up to his face. We get that face tat that we see with Sieghart, that we saw with Jalal, and now we're seeing it here with Justice. So we get this guy, and you know, I have to see maybe more artwork, if there's any more colored artwork of him with his ether gear on, because it kind of looks like his hair changes color. At least in the manga, the hair gets a little darker when he gets his ether gear turned on. So I'm wondering if his hair turns blue just like the other two guys when his ether gear is on. Pretty cool, and a pretty slick way to introduce this character model here. I'm all for it. I love this design right here. Here's where we end volume 2 off, is where we are drifting in space with the gang. You know, they're trying to cool themselves off, and you know, we get this ominous scene where within this new ship that they acquired, there's this pod, and the pod says E4 on it, and for some reason this pod turns on, it activates, it opens up, and we see this chick. She has this visor, she has this helmet on with that says E4 on it. She has this crazy ass looking mechanical hands, or maybe it's gauntlets. She has this robe on, she got cleavage going on. Now I've seen this artwork before online. I don't know who this character is. I mean, I recognize the character model because of the artwork online, but you know, I'm hyped for this. I'm ready to see who this character is and where this story is going to go next. And that is Eden Zero Volume 2. I can't wait to get into Volume 3 and see where this story goes next. You know, Mashima was hinting in the afterword that we got world building within Volumes 1 and 2, but Volume 3 is where the real action is going to start, so I can't wait to see what that looks like. So let me know down in the comment section what you think about this volume, if I missed anything or some of the hype moments that I was talking about. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. We're going to be doing more Eden Zero videos in the near future. With that being said, I will see you all next time. Bye everyone.